I said we'd pick up with the chapter of the Potions Master. Let's back up briefly into the chapter. We kind of glossed over this the other day. The Sorting Hat, page 121. Here he goes up, and he puts the hat on, and the hat says, difficult. Or he hears a voice in his ear. Difficult. Very difficult. Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind either. Talent, oh my goodness. So, courage. What else? Brain just went dead. Not a bad mind. Talent. And a thirst to prove yourself. Right? Back up again for just a moment. Just go a couple of pages back to 118. Okay? And the Sorting Hat is singing its song, and it tells us who belongs where. So you've got Gryffindor. What order does it do them in? Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Slytherin. Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Slytherin. Okay. So, Gryffindors. Brave at heart, daring, nerve, chivalry. Hufflepuff, just, loyal, patient, true, and we'll use what he says here, unafraid of toil. Ravenclaw, ready mind, wit, learning, will always find their kind. Slytherin, cunning, use any means, or another way of putting that, means justify, excuse me, just the opposite, ends justify the means, and that's it, okay? So, these are the four houses. Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Slytherin. They're each named after a person. If you've read the Harry Potter novels, you know all that. So, Gryffindor's brave at heart, daring, nerve, chivalry. When Harry meets Malfoy back at Madame Malkin's, putting on robes, okay, where does Malfoy say he wants to be? Slytherin, okay? Where does Harry say he wants to be? He doesn't really know, though. I mean, he's talked to Hagrid a little bit. Hagrid's told him some, but he doesn't know. Ron says, you know, better Gryffindor, or better really any of these than Slytherin, okay? But notice the qualities. Gryffindor, brave at heart, okay? Plenty of courage. Courage. Look, what's the root of that word? The C-O-U-R. That C-O-U-R, that is the C-A-R in cardiac. Heart is at the root of the word courage. Okay? So, brave at heart, daring. Can you be foolishly daring as well as wisely daring? Yes, you can. Daring, you know, not modified by some kind of moral qualifier. It's just, you know, you're willing to do something. You're willing to take on a task. Nerve, kind of the same. Okay? Chivalry. Chivalry is a loaded term because chivalry has this whole cultural history behind it. What does a chivalrous person do? Thinks of others before himself. Usually chivalry is applied to whom? Knights. Men. Women don't need to be chivalrous, so to speak, culturally. Okay? It's the men who, again, old-fashioned way of thinking for some people. It's the men who should open the door, not because women are unable to, but because you're showing respect there. It's the men who should pull the chair out. It's the men who should rise when a woman enters. All that, okay, are aspects of chivalry. But chivalry is more than that. It's also aiding somebody in need, helping somebody who needs help. Okay? You go back to the Middle Ages, and the idea of this is really based around is Matthew 25, where Jesus is talking about the last judgment. And the people are going to be going on to his left into hell, and the people are going to be going on to the right into heaven. These are the sheep, these are the goats. Who's going to go this way and who's going to go this way? He gives a kind of a parable. If you have fed the hungry, given water to the thirsty, helped the orphans and widows, visited those in prison, and done good things to those in need, then you'll go off to the heaven. If you haven't done any of that stuff, you go to hell. And people are going to say to him, Lord, when did I do? Because he says, inasmuch as you've done it unto these, you've done it unto me. When have I done this? Because he says, when I was hungry, you gave me food. When I was thirsty, you gave me drink. When I was naked, you gave me clothing. When I was in prison, you visited me. When did I do this to you, Jesus? Inasmuch as you've done it unto the least of these. So, in the Middle Ages, that inasmuch as you've done it unto the least of these kind of becomes the basis for this. So what does that tell us about Gryffindors? They don't think only, I'm going to throw that qualifier in there, of themselves. Slytherins do. And again, doesn't matter whether or not you want to be a Gryffindor, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw. Within the context of the books, that's what Slytherins do. Why? They will use any means to what? Achieve their end. So what if the end is you want to rise the corporate ladder? How do you do that? You screw the person ahead of you. Not literally. This way, you stick the knives in their backs. You climb upon the corpses of those you've killed to rise above. You play hardball. Okay? You play dirty if you need to get what you need. Notice Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff, kind of in the middle. Though, if we were to read and talk about all the books, guess which one of the houses? It's pretty clear. By the time we hear the last Sorting Hat song, book 5, which one of the houses does it seem Rowling really sympathizes the most with? Or really pushes out as the best of the houses? It's not Gryffindor. Even though that's the one Harry's in. It's Hufflepuff of all of them. Because Hufflepuff has the worst reputation next to Slytherin, right? Who ends up in Hufflepuff?
Everyone else.
Everyone what? Not chosen by these founders. Back when the school was first founded. Hufflepuff takes the rest. What does that mean? Put that in a real world context. Every one of you has been in this kind of situation. I don't mean the kind of situation where you're the one chosen for Hufflepuff. But you've been in a situation where people you've known have been chosen for Hufflepuff. Grade school. PE. You're forming teams. What happens? Unless the teacher is really, equality-minded in everything, if individuals pick the teams, the best players get selected first, and who ends up in the back? The fat, dorky kid with the glasses, Neville. Neville Longbottoms get left in the back. Okay? Those are the ones Hufflepuff says, I'll take them all. I'll take them all. Okay? So, the sorting hat is put on Harry's head and it says, courage, not a bad mind, talent, thirst to prove yourself. What are each of these? Well, you could say that these are qualities found in courage. That's definitely a Gryffindor characteristic. Not a bad mind. That's definitely a Ravenclaw characteristic. Thirst to prove yourself. That's ambition. Slytherin. Talent. What's talent? It's what you're born with. That's kind of this. Kind of. Okay. It's what? It's what's left. It's what's left. When you take everything else out, courage isn't necessarily, you're not necessarily born with courage. It's something you develop. It's something you learn. Mind, yeah, you're kind of born with that. But you can develop it. I mean, after all, it's not just wit. It's learning. Or a ready mind. This is the mind that is able to do what? Just soak up stuff. Hermione, right? Why is Hermione not here? Because later in the books we find out she said, no, I want to be in Gryffindor. Why? Because all the cool kids are in Gryffindor. Essentially. Okay? Yeah.
Do you feel like Harry has the least association personally with Hufflepuff because he's actually the chosen one?
How do you mean? I'm not sure what you mean by the least association.
Like, of all of those characteristics, like he has the strongest association with Gryffindor and Slytherin, like those are the ones that really stick out. Ravenclaw's for like the mega nerds. Not a bad mind doesn't really qualify.
No, you're right, it doesn't.
But talent, you know, that kind of goes into all the aspects that you have.
Yeah.
So the one that he's the least associated with is Hufflepuff.
The one that he's least associated in terms of what the sorting hat says.
Yeah.
And yet, look at these qualities. Every one of them describes Harry to a T. Every one of them. Okay. These, yes and no. I'd say generally more yes. These, no. Harry is definitely not the brightest bulb in the box. I mean, he just isn't. Okay? It takes him a long time sometimes. Dumbledore asks him very leading questions. He's like, we're going to see when we get to the Mirror of Erised. And so, you can tell me what it does. Okay, no, obviously not. Let's turn up the wattage there, Harry. This one, cunning. What is meant by cunning here? Is this just cleverness? No. What's another good word for this? Starts with a D and ends with an us. Devious. These are devious people. Okay? Deviousness can be a good quality in particular contexts. Okay? But in a room full of quote-unquote saints or nuns or monks, not a good quality. In a room of Donald Trumps, it'd be a good quality to have. Why? Because, you know, he's going to be using the same kind of quality against you. Okay? Or, frankly, any politician for that matter. But these, does Harry ever really cheat? Either in classes and test kind of things, in Quidditch? No, he doesn't. He follows the basic rules. Does he break some of Hogwarts' rules? Of course he does. Why? He's a kid. He's a teenager. What happens when he gets the invisibility cloak? Well, first of all, notice what it says. Use it well. Whoever gave it to him is saying what? Hey man, this will make you invisible. You got this big old 1,000-year-old castle. Have fun. So he does. Okay? Loyal. Does he ever turn his back on his friends? Ever? No. Patient? He lives. From book 1 through book 7. Yeah, that kind of implies patience. True, that is, true means like upright. Okay? It means not deviating. Does Harry ever deviate from his kind of path? No. Dumbledore's going to say at the end of book 6, you know, Harry, with everything you've been through, never once have you been tempted by the dark side. Been tempted to go the way of the dark arts. Okay? So, courage, not a bad mind, talent, thirst to prove yourself. And what does the Sorting Hat say? Well, gee, I don't know where to put you. Okay? So where shall I put you? Harry just thinks, not Slytherin, not Slytherin, not Slytherin. Notice he doesn't say Gryffindor, even though he and Ron have already talked about Gryffindor. Why not? I think at this point in his life, Harry may not know which one of these he should be put in. He may not see himself as a Gryffindor, meaning brave, daring, showing nerve, chivalry, etc. Where has he shown himself brave? Up to this point in the novel. Already. On the train, right? Malfoy and his goons come in. He says, I've heard Harry... It's you, isn't it, Harry? Yeah. What does Malfoy offer him? Friendship. Harry says, no thanks, I think I can choose my own friends. Malfoy says some things, and Harry stands up. And Ron says, you take that back. What's Harry getting ready to do right there?
Fine.
Come to blows. Defending Ron. We're going to see in a moment, he does the same thing with Neville. When Neville loses his remember all. Okay? He goes at it, metaphorically at least, again, with Malfoy. So, not Slytherin, eh? You sure? Notice what the hat's offering him. You sure? You could be great, you know. It's all here in your hand. That is all the ingredients you need for greatness. And if you go here, what will it do? It'll bake the perfect greatness cake. It'll hone all of those aspects of you, Harry. It will help you on the way to greatness, no doubt about that. Because even if he doesn't have cunning, and even if he isn't willing to use any means to get what he wants, what will Slytherin do? It will help him discover those traits in himself. Why? Because all of these traits, we're all in Rashid, we're all Morgan, we're all Christopher. They're in all of us. We have all of these traits in us. Some people have more of one than another, however. That's how the Sorting Hat picks. Notice, when Malfoy puts on the Sorting Hat, does the Sorting Hat actually touch his head? It's either, I can't remember, it's either it gets really close or it barely touches it and it blurts out Slytherin. In other words, he just gives off so much cunning and will use whatever means necessary that the Sorting Hat doesn't need to get close. And it's pretty clear. These qualities? No, Malfoy does not have those. Loyal? Yeah, he's loyal. To whom? His family. That's a good quality. It can be taken to an extreme. Okay. So, not Gryffindor, not Slytherin, not Slytherin. Okay, well, then better be. Notice the Sorting Hat doesn't even consider. Well, what about Ravenclaw then? Well, not a bad mind. No, you wouldn't do well there. Doesn't even consider Hufflepuff. Okay? So, Gryffindor. Okay? So Harry gets sorted into Gryffindor. Everybody's happy. We'll skip the Potion Master. There's a lot there we can skip. So, Midnight Duel. chapter. Neville gets his remember-all from his grandmother. What is a remember-all? What does it do?
It shows you that you've forgotten something, but it doesn't tell you what you've forgotten.
It's a reminder. It's like a long time ago, people used to tie, this piece of string on their finger to remind them of something. Today we have these things and these things. When I have an appointment, I say, here, let me put it in my brain, and I put it in the calendar. Why? So I don't have to remember it anymore. Okay? That's what Neville's remember-all is. So Neville gets on his broom, flies up, falls off, breaks his arm, goes off, and there's remember-all. Malfoy takes it. Okay? And we see, page 148, Harry say, give that here, Malfoy. I think I'll find somewhere for Longbottom to find up a tree. Harry, give it here. Malfoy gets on his broom, jumps up. Hermione, oh, Harry, no. You'll get us all into trouble. What's she thinking about? Points, Gryffindor, Harry gets on his broom, kicks off, is up in the air, and what does he suddenly realize? Okay, before you answer that, when he goes off to Hogwarts, what does he tell Ron is one of his fears? Somebody mentioned it the other day.
He's not going to be good at anything.
He won't be good at anything. He doesn't know anything about the magical world. Why? Because he was raised in the quintessential Muggle house. Okay? And in a rush of fierce joy, he realized he'd found something he could do without being taught. In other words, talent. Raw, native ability. Probably the first time Michael Jordan picked up a basketball. Raw, native ability. Did it have to be honed? Did it have to be trained? Yes, it did. Okay? Or the first time Usain Bolt ran. He said, watch that, kid. Or Michael Phelps in water, And he pulled his broomstick up, and what else does he kind of suddenly realize? I also know how this thing works. It's like getting in a car your very first time, not a stupid automatic, a stick shift. And being able to start it, first of all, go, move without it and dying, and shifting gears without. He's a natural at this. He says, give it here, Malfoy, or I'll knock you off that broom. Malfoy, oh yeah? And Harry says, as he gets up closer to him, no Crabbe and Goyle up here. In other words, it's just you and me, buddy. Malfoy throws it and runs. Flies. Okay? And what does Harry do? We're told he stretches out his hand, he goes through a steep dive, racing the ball, and McGonagall says something about it being, a 50-foot catch. She says, Potter? Hermione's thinking, oh, great. Harry's thinking, that's it, I'm expelled. And what does she do? Takes him to Wood, okay, who's the captain of the Quidditch team, puts him on the Quidditch team, first of all, which first years aren't supposed to be, so we're going to bend a little rule there. What else? She tells him something. Keep going. Like your father. What does Harry know at this point about his father? What's he been told about his father? Only the little bit he's heard from Hagrid. He doesn't know his father was a Quidditch player. He didn't know his father was a seeker. Okay? What else do we find out? Harry's the youngest person to play Quidditch in over 100 years. And what position? Seeker. Why? Because that's what he's doing throughout all 7 books. And it doesn't have to do with a stupid little golden ball with wings. He's seeking something a little bit deeper than that. Okay? So, we get the midnight duel. Harry, Ron, Hermione go off. Hermione gets them away from the... What do you describe that thing on the 3rd floor hallway? Or in the locked room? Cerberus, right? But it's not Cerberus, it's Fluffy. Big, large, three-headed dog. Hermione's the only one who notices the trap door underneath. 2013 when I was teaching in London, house came for sale over in Gloucestershire near the Forest of Dean, which figures in Book 7. And the house is one that J.K. Rowling had lived in when she was a kid. An American film producer owned it and was selling it. The house has one, stairs, and under the stairs, a cupboard. Big enough for a bed. Like Harry's room in number 4 Privet Drive. And it also had a trap door that led down to a cellar. Okay? So there's 2 images from this first book. From her reality that figure into the first book. Okay? So we get Halloween and the troll is let in. Why don't Harry and Ron go up to their rooms like they're supposed to at the end of the Halloween feast? How do they know Hermione's in the bathroom? Okay, yeah. Why else? Why wasn't she at the feast? Ron upset her. They were leaving potions, right? I think it's potions. And what happened? Ron makes a comment about, well, she has to know why she doesn't have any friends, why nobody likes her, and she kind of intentionally brushes up against them, tears streaming down her face. And Harry's like, I think you made her cry. Well, Ron says, that's why. So she's not at the feast. They heard she's in the bathroom. They leave. They put 2 and 2 together. What's the end of that scene? What happens to the 3 of them? Very close. They're like the 3 Musketeers. Why? Because Ron and Harry defeat the troll? No. Part of it, I guess. What really cements their friendship? Hermione, how does she take the blame? What does she do? She lies to a teacher. Hermione, who is, she's here, but she is true in all senses of it. She doesn't lie. Okay? I mean, her parents are what? Orthodontist, dentist? How normal, can you be? Okay? So, Quidditch. We have the Quidditch match. They think Snape is casting, spells on Harry. Hermione goes, sets him on fire, etc. Harry wins the match. How important is Quidditch throughout all 7 books? It really isn't, right? It's a diversion. It's something for the films to go totally crazy about. Because the Quidditch matches end up taking 1/5 of the time in the films when there are Quidditch matches in the films. Like this one. Where does Harry, in this Quidditch match, where does he personally play in the Quidditch match? Or in the next book with the Rogue Bludger? Does he stay on the pitch? No. Keep in mind, first of all, what's the pitch for a Quidditch match? It's up in the air. The pitch refers to like a football field or a soccer field. It's the turf. They don't play down there. And I know MTSU has its own Quidditch team. There are intercollegiate Quidditch leagues. Silly, okay? But it's not important. The only reason this Quidditch match is important is what? It's how Harry catches the snitch, because she brings that back in book 7. Okay? So if you haven't read them, read them and you'll figure it out. Mirror of Erised is where I want to get to. So, Christmas is coming, and I've totally skipped what it is Harry, Ron, and Hermione are looking for. Why? What are they looking for? Louder?
Book.
Which book?
The one talking about Nicholas Flamel.
One talking about Nicholas Flamel. How do they know about Nicholas Flamel? Because Hagrid spilled the beans a little bit. Okay? So why are they interested in Nicholas Flamel? Why are they looking for that?
It's one of the things you could bring.
Okay? Why else? Keep going. I mean, we could keep tracing. The same day that Harry went to Gringotts, he later reads in a newspaper, there was a break-in. Okay? And so they put two and two together, and Christmas now comes, and Harry opens up his Christmas presents, and he's surprised. He wakes up, and there are presents at the foot of his bed. Why is he so surprised? He's never really had them before. Okay? So he has presents from Ron, the Weasleys, Mrs. Weasley, Hermione, Hagrid. Who else? Two more. Dumbledore and... No, not McGonagall.
Oh yeah,
The Dursleys. Page 200. We received your message and enclose your Christmas present from Uncle Vernon on Petunia. A 50-pence piece. Okay? They give him about 75 cents. Really generous, right? Ron's fascinated. Harry flips it to him. Okay? So what else? Ron goes, uh-oh. That's from Mom. Weasley sweater. Okay? Chocolate frogs from Hermione. What does Hagrid give him? A flute. A hand-carved, whittled flute. Where, anywhere previous in the books, or in this book, and then from here to the end of book 7, where do we see Hagrid show any interest at all in one, woodworking, or two, musical instruments, or music? None. So, why does she have Hagrid give Harry a flute? 2 words. Plot device. That's it. She just needs it for the plot device. What's the plot device? How do you get past Fluffy? You play music. Okay? So they got to get it. She has to have a way to get past Fluffy. So that's it. What's the last thing? The invisibility cloak. Ron says, I think I know what that is. They're really rare, really valuable. What is it? It's invisibility cloak. It is, look. Okay, so how would Ron know? Because he's seen one? Because he's had one? Because the Weasleys have them? No. Because what did he just say? They're really rare and really valuable. Is Ron the kind of person, the kind of student who would have read about them? Probably not. Okay? So I'm just kind of curious how Ron knows about them. So there's a note. Your father left this in my possession before he died. It's time it was returned to you. Use it well. So now he not only knows a few more things about his father, his mother and father were somewhat famous. Voldemort killed them himself, okay, because they opposed him. His father was a seeker on the Quidditch team. He was good at it. Now he has something of his father's. This is kind of like what for Harry? An heirloom. I mean, it's a family thing, handed down. He doesn't know how far handed down it is. It is a family heirloom, right? Book 7. It's a very old family heirloom. So, use it well can only mean what?
It's going to be used one day.
Okay. What else?
Get in trouble.
Try it on. If it makes you invisible and you're told to use it well, put it on and what? Explore. Okay. So, they have a great Christmas feast. Christmas night. Harry goes back up to his room. He's stuffed. He's full. And he's got the invisibility cloak and he sees the note again. Use it well. He thinks he will. Where's he going to go first? The library, restricted section. Okay. He goes, makes some noise, runs. Here's Mrs. Norris, and he gets into a room, closes the door, backs into the room, turns around, and there is a giant floor-to-ceiling mirror with carving around the edge and words carved into the wood. Bottom of 207. Erisid stra eru oit ube kavru oit unwosi. Turn it all around, and what does it read? I show you not your face, but your heart's desire. Mirrors normally show you your face. This shows what? What's deepest in here. Okay? It's not, it shows me I want to get outstanding in potions. I want to get outstanding in transfer. It doesn't show you I want to get a new car. It shows you the deepest thing you desire. Okay? So, he steps in front of the mirror, puts his hands over his mouth because he's about to yell. Why? Because the mirror's full of people. But the room's empty. He looks around, so he turns back to the mirror. Because when he first sees all the people in the mirror, he does this real fast. Got a bunch of people coming behind him. Turns around. There he was, reflected in it. So notice, it shows him his face. It shows Harry as he is right now. This is important. Okay? And then it shows behind him about 10 other people. Or at least 10 others. So he looks over his shoulder. It's almost like he tries to get both in his peripheral vision. He looks over. Nope, nobody there. Or were they all invisible too? Because bear in mind, he's got on his invisibility cloak. And yet he sees himself. Okay? Sees himself surrounded by all these other... Who are all these other people? His family. He shouldn't see himself in the mirror, right? Because of the invisibility cloak. So it's showing him his heart's deepest desire. What is that? To be with his family. He's there. Who's immediately behind him? His parents. Who's behind them? Grandparents, great-grandparents, aunts, uncles, etc. Was he, in fact, in a room full of invisible people, and this mirror's trick, like it's a magic trick, was that it reflected them invisible or not? Now, that's a question she asks here early on, page 208. But it's a question that kind of resonates throughout some of the other books, like a wave. It crests here, dips, it crests later, dips, crests later. Book 5, Harry goes into the Ministry of Magic. In the Ministry of Magic, he goes into the Department of Mysteries, and one of the rooms he goes into is the Room of Death. And in the Room of Death, there's an archway with a curtain, and the curtain's gently moving. And Harry goes in and says, "Who's there?" Why? He hears whispering. Later on, Luna Lovegood says, "Come on, Harry, you heard them just out of view, behind the veil." Well, he went and walked behind the veil, and there was nobody there. Rowling is getting at, there are, quote-unquote, invisible people. Where are they? Where is all of Harry's family? Dead. He looked in the mirror again. A woman standing right behind his reflection was smiling at him and waving. So she's standing right behind him, smiling and waving. Notice what's going to happen. He's looking at himself, the woman behind him, the man next to him, others behind. And what does he do? He sees her smiling and waving. And he does this. Why? What does this indicate, let's say, to the reflection of the woman in the mirror?
That's not real.
Okay, possible. What else? He sees all this, right? And he does this. Why? Bingo. This is an indication to her that what's going on in Harry's mind? He sees me. He sees me. That's why he's doing this. He's trying to reach out. Now, when Harry does, by the way, someone had shoulder replaced. When he does this, what's he trying to do? Touch her. Touch them. Does he? I think he does. We're not told. Does he see himself doing this in the mirror? Now listen to what happens. If she was really there, he'd touch her. Their reflections were so close together, but he felt only air. She and the others existed only in the mirror. She was a very pretty woman. She had dark red hair. Her eyes are just like mine, Harry thinks. Edging a little closer to the glass, bright green. But then he noticed she was crying and smiling at the same time. So, when he first notices her, she's smiling and waving. Now, she's no longer waving, but she's smiling and crying. Why? Or, let me back up. What does this tell us about her, the image of the woman in the mirror? Is it real? First of all. Let me rephrase it this way. What has happened to the image of the woman in the mirror? Over a course of seconds, maybe, or minutes. It's changed. How? No longer doing this. Louder. Her emotions, her reactions. She goes from smiling and waving to smiling and crying because Harry tried to touch her. She realizes he sees her. So why is she crying? Because she's not where? Okay? Not alive, not in the room with Harry, not where Harry can, old AT&T commercial, reach out and touch someone. She's crying because what can't she do? Be his mom? What else? She can't communicate with him, right? But notice, she sees him. He sees her. Okay. If she sees him, what does that tell us about the mirror? Is it just a mirror, folks? Is it a two-way mirror? Is it just like? I'm asking, I'm not saying it is, but is it not just like? Is it similar to the veil in the room of death in the Department of Mysteries? Because these people back here, they can apparently see Harry. Okay? And they're apparently existing in some kind of time. That is linear time. Why? Because we see them do things and change in time. Okay? So we've been focused on Harry and the woman. Now what happens? The tall, thin, black-haired man standing next to her puts his arm around her. Why? What's he doing? Indicating he's your husband? Well, you don't have to be married to put your arm around somebody. Unless you're really weird. Comforting her. Why? If this is merely the deepest, darkest, or the deepest desire of Harry's heart to see, first of all, does any child, male or female, want to see either of his or her parents cry? Ever? No, it's not easy. And here he is watching his mother, because he now knows this is mom. Why? I have her eyes. Crying. And so the man next to her, which he assumes is his father, reaches his arm out and puts it around her to comfort her. What is that telling us? That in the world of the mirror, the man standing next to her realizes, oh, she's sorrowful. I'm going to comfort her. I'm going to bring her some peace. telling us these two things, they are real. But what are they? Because jump to book 7. Where are James and Lily Potter? Dead. Harry goes. He sees their graves. And he just totally loses it. I mean, just boo-hoo. I mean, just... Why? 16 years of pent-up anger and emotion just pours out right there. Okay? Not here. So he sees the man, comforter, he wears, it's his dad. Notice, he's so close to the mirror, his nose was almost touching that of the reflection. Mom? Dad? They just look at him, smiling. No longer crying. Why? Because he just said the two words, what? They've been waiting for 10 years to hear. Mom? Dad? They know he knows they're there. So they haven't read the book or seen the film The Martian, right? How many of you have seen that? If you haven't seen it, man, you gotta see it. Read the book, it's even better. They don't do this. Hi, Harry. We heart. They don't do that. Could they? Yeah. I think it's possible they could. So why don't they? Caught up in the moment. Okay. So what does he do? He stands there, he sees his parents, and then he starts to see other faces. Other eyes like his, other hair like his, other knobbly knees like his. And he just sits down. Is he going to learn anything in this experience? Does he come to know his family? Does he pour out his heart? Does he talk to them? No. Why? They can't talk back. It's not like he finds, the magical button that pushes the intercom between here and the great hereafter. Doesn't work that way. He goes back to his dorm. He tells Ron, you could have woken me up. You can come tonight. I'm going back. Okay? So they go back. They get to the mirror, and page 210, Harry says, see, Ron, I can't see anything. Look, come on, there are loads of them. Where's Harry standing? Directly in front of the mirror. Say this panel right here is the mirror. Harry's standing right here. Where's Ron standing? Diagonally. Again. What does he see? Nothing. He sees an empty room. So Harry says, come here. Stand where I am. In other words, look at it from my perspective. Well, he can't. Because he can't be here. So what does Ron see? Look at me. Can you see all your family around you? Notice, that's what Harry wants to see. What does Ron see?
He's head boy.
He's head boy, Quidditch captain, house cup, the whole 9 yards. And alone. He's by himself. Why? Because he's got 5 older brothers and a younger sister. He's used to being one of the unloved middle children. He's always had family all around. This is when he gets to do what? Shine. All on his own. Deepest, darkest desire of his heart? Is it to be alone? No, it's to be what? Recognized. Special. Okay? You think this mirror shows the future? Ron asked. He's going, please let it show the future. Because what kind of student is Ron? He's not a Ravenclaw. Okay? You get the impression Harry and Ron wouldn't pass from one year to the next if it hadn't been for Hermione. Harry, how can it? All my family are dead. See, this is why Harry is in a Ravenclaw. He says, how can it show the future when I'm in it and all my family are dead? It's, part of the arrogance of youth. I'm not going to die. Yeah, you are. Everybody dies eventually. At some point in the future, Harry will be in the mirror with all of his family, or Harry will be dead. Okay? Wherever all of his family is, that's where he will be. Harry, come on, let me have another look. You had it all yourself last night. Yeah, but you're only seeing yourself holding the Quidditch cup. Big deal. In other words, it's a stupid thing. Right? And what happens? You hear a noise out in the corridor. And run. Okay? Harry goes back. The next night. And what happens? Who does he see? Albus Dumbledore. So, back again, Harry? I didn't see you, sir. He's wearing his cloak. Dumbledore, strange how nearsighted being invisible can make you. Oh, nearsighted. What's nearsightedness? You see stuff where? Right here. In other words, Harry, you're not what? Focusing on the big picture. Right? What else does Dumbledore say? He says, I don't need an invisibility cloak to make me invisible. Huh. So you've discovered the delights of the Mirror of Erised. I didn't know that's what it was called, but you've realized now what it does. In other words, come on. Show me I was right for sending you. Show me you belong here. Shows me my family. And it showed your friend Ron, himself as head boy. Well, how did you? I don't need a cloak to make me invisible. Dumbledore was the noise outside in the hall, I think. That was his way of saying, okay, boys, time to go back to bed. So, what's the Mirror of Erised show us, Harry? No clue. Okay, let me explain. Happiest man on earth would be able to use the Mirror of Erised like a normal mirror. That is, it would show him what? Himself exactly as he is. Why? Because he wants nothing. It's not that it makes him happy. He is what? Totally content. He lacks nothing. If you're the happiest person in the world, you don't need anything. You are, in the true sense of the word, apathetic, not apathetic. Apathetic means you don't give a damn. Apathetic means no desires or no passions. That's it. Okay, Harry, so Harry interprets what Dumbledore has just said. It shows us what we want, whatever we want. Is that right? No. Yes and no. Shows us nothing more or less than the deepest, most desperate desire of our hearts. So what is the deepest, most desperate desire of Harry's heart? To be with his family? Well, we can make that happen, you know. You kill him, and he's with his family. Very into book 7. So he tells Harry, I'm going to move this mirror, Harry, but now, if you ever do run into it again, you will know how it works. Why does Dumbledore say that? What's he telling us, the reader? Okay, what else? Okay, what else?
He's going to need that.
Bingo. I don't have the right number of squares. What's Dumbledore playing? Chess. Harry's playing hopscotch or tic-tac-toe. Dumbledore's playing, three-dimensional chess, essentially. If you should ever see the mirror again, Harry, now you know how it works. What's he saying? You will see it again, Harry. I know you. Okay? And so when we come back on Monday, we're going to jump almost to the end. Okay, we'll talk about the Forbidden Forest a little bit, and then we'll jump to the end.